An illegal cannabis grower says keeping tax on cannabis products to about 20%, along with a minimum purchase age of 20, would help curb a black market if people vote yes to legalising marijuana. He's been growing cannabis for 20 years and says he's sick of feeling like a ninja hiding from the law.
I basically learned to grow cannabis to help fund a family member's operation. So they had a private operation where they needed some money, so that was my introduction into it. I then continued to grow cannabis to basically feed and provide for my family as I was on a benefit. That's putting clothes on a kid's back, shoes on their feet, all the things they need for school and all the extracurricular things they need. So it was great in the sense that I had that particular money to be able to provide for the needs of my kids, because a lot of the people that don't have money, that live in poverty, their kids miss out on a lot of stuff, and later on down the track, a lot of those kids are the ones that we see in gangs and stuff like that.
Because you know a few people listening to this are going to say, isn't there another job that you could have got?
I actually did end up getting a full-time job, but because of the type of cannabis that I grow, which is a connoisseur, it's very high quality, not necessarily high strength, but of high quality, the market was always there. My partner and I both worked, but the needs and, the price of living is so high, but wages haven't gone up. So everything else has gone up, with power, food, fuel, cigarettes, whatnot, but our wages have never gone up. So we had to still keep hustling, what I call hustling, just to make those ends meet, just to be able to live a bit more better than struggling and having $30 at the end of the week to try and juggle on food.
So you're basically subsidising your income with a sideline business?
Yes, and providing, the thing is, I'm not involved in gangs and stuff like that, so a lot of my customers are just people like yourself. They're the general public who don't want to associate with gangs and stuff like that with buying cannabis. So I carried on as a business just to be able to give to people that needed it, and to provide for other like-minded people who didn't want to be going to gang-related tinny shops or going to dark side of town to score rubbish as well, rubbish type of cannabis. So I grew for selected lot of people who wanted a high-quality product.
When you say you're providing a service for people who need it, do you mean people who want it, recreational users?
No, it's a bit of both. So there's always the recreational side, but a lot of people self-medicate with cannabis. So a lot of the strains of cannabis that I was dealing in and growing were the medicinal type of strains that had a good ratio of the CBD and THC. So people, with anxiety, to help with that, so you give them certain strains.
But cannabis for some people contributes to poor mental health.
With that side, what we need to do to help those people is have the right strains of cannabis available to us. So, when people think cannabis in New Zealand, the past thing on cannabis is that it's been very high potency. That high potency cannabis is no good for those type of people. They need a good balance of CBD plus a minimum amount of THC. So nothing to get them stoned and out of control, but just enough to keep them in track. People like that with the mental health system, they're getting loaded up on heavy pharmaceutical pills to zombie them out, to knock them out so that they don't flare up. If we can provide them the right medicine with the right strains, the right ratios, it'll be beneficial to them.
Obviously that is open to debate, but I'm just wondering, how do you think that, if legalisation happens, how would that affect your business?
If cannabis is legalised and all that, and people are able to grow their own, or if commercial companies are able to provide people with cannabis, I'm all for that.
But would you stay in the business? Would you stay in the business as a legitimate grower?
I would yes, I would transition myself into the legitimate side of the business because I love growing. I love the whole aspect of growing marijuana, what it really is about and what it can do for people. So I'm passionate about it. So yes, I will transition to the new side and not on the commercial side like what I did before. I'll basically be going in as a worker to help form businesses. So people like me who have got the IP to get them started.
Do you pay tax on your income from cannabis?
No, but I give to charity. I'm always giving to charity. So I support Salvation Army. We go into the pack and save, fill up trolleys of cans and food in there, and then donate it back to Salvation Army. I help out local sports clubs, donating socks, rugby, shorts, stuff like that for the ones that are struggling.
So you're telling me that's your way of paying tax on this extra income, in essence?
I never looked at it like that. But if you're like me, if you've had a good thing, you want to share it with people. So I've never looked at it as a way of tax, but I'm saying I'm not one of those ones who just grow for the full profit.
How much do you reckon you make a year from selling cannabis, and how much would you sell in a year?
Depends on quality. In my first sort of times I was doing it, I was making about 50 grand a year, extra, and that's just selling it in bulk. That's not trying to sell it commercially in tinnies, and try and...
That is some serious coin, 50 grand.
That's nothing compared to the real growers. There's real growers here where I come from that are cracking 200 grand a year to over $1 million. So you'd be happy
to pay tax on that money then?
Definitely.
To go legal?
Why not? Definitely, yeah.
Just in terms of what might happen, so obviously there's tax on cigarettes, there's tax on alcohol. What do you think would be fair tax to place on marijuana? So it's about 50% on cigarettes. Do you reckon should be in the same ballpark if cannabis is made legal?
Well, it depends. The government would like that. As a cannabis grower and representing other cannabis growers, I would say that's ludicrous, and that'll only drive growers back into the black market, giving over 50%. Little snippet I caught from the Ministry of Justice earlier this year is, talking about 70% tax. In California, they have 60%. They have to pay 2 sets of licenses and then pay money to different boards.
So what do you think would be fair?
Thriving. I think it'll be fair if all the profit, if a true cannabis business can give profit back to the communities that need it the most, because
everybody pays tax, though. Everybody pays tax. So what tax would be fair on cannabis products? What's your figure?
To be fair, I would still stay around, say, 20%. The stuff that goes involved that you have to do to grow cannabis is a lot more than what people think. I hear things that people say it's easy to grow cannabis. It isn't. So 20% is reality.
The other consideration is what age people should be able to legally smoke cannabis or consume cannabis in some form. What would you be comfortable with? The recommendation is 20 years.
Yeah, I'd say 20, 21.
But you're providing product to people younger than that at the moment.
Yes, but in a legal sense, I'm thinking of a place like a dispensary where people can come and go. But, we've got to go back to around that age group, what are we looking at? Because, like from the age of 12, you pay an adult fee on a bus in the cities of Wellington. From the age of 14, you're legally allowed to leave school. At the age of 16, you're consenting to sex. So with cannabis, I bet you a lot of the people who have smoked cannabis in their day, and like me, have had it as early as 13, have experienced it at 13. When I experienced it at 13, I didn't become addicted or whatever. It was just a smoke. Then later on, when I was 16 or 17, I was out scoring. So
20 you think is reasonable?
I think, 2021 is definitely reasonable. I'm just trying to, say in the black market side, it's anyone's game, and really when money's coming in your door, it's better to take it than send them away to someone else that'll give them shit, or, what I'm talking shit has been crap weed.
So have you considered the fact that if it is legalised, it could actually lower your income because you may have more competition, it would cut out the black market, that would be one of the aims of it. And anyway, people could legally grow a couple of plants in their backyard. So have you thought about the fact it could cut
definitely.
your income?
The thing is, anyone can grow cannabis, but only cannabis growers, masters, can pull off the desired product that people want. So that's why I say there's a lot more into growing cannabis. People, yes, they can grow their own, but who's going to help those people that live in a Housing New Zealand house? Will Housing New Zealand let them grow? Who's going to help people that are going to grow in apartments, live in apartments? There still has to be a recreational cannabis company, but I think what the government need to do is just reduce the numbers to maybe less than a handful. And that way there you won't get all this, everything getting out of control like it is in the States. You've got heaps of dispensaries, heaps of cannabis companies, and it's just mind-boggling.
So you're talking about quite tight regulation and supporting quite tight regulation, despite the fact that you're basically out there at the moment open slather, and your competition is in the same situation.
Well, we're all open slather because the government have made it like this, and we've had to do this. I mean, we have to do this to survive. We get terrorised by the cops when they come here and blue our plants and stuff like that. A lot of people are only trying to, make ends meet. So we're still carrying on what we need to do to survive. There's other people who are out there slaying it for profit, though.
Do you have any convictions for cultivation or use?
Yes.
So how would you feel if that prevented you from getting a legitimate licence to set up a cannabis business? Because that is a possibility.
I would be disappointed, but the thing is, if New Zealand follows the what everyone else is doing, the other countries, cannabis growers with convictions are the ones that should be given the licences first.
Why do you say that?
You look at this. You look at how it is now. You've got all these corporations who had nothing to do with cannabis before wanting to jump in the cannabis game. People who have got convictions are actually, conviction. That's like a prerequisite, because you've got it on paper that you can actually do it. So
you reckon it's quality control?
It is definitely quality control, because on the black market, if you look at things like prices right now, and at the end of the off-season, it's a lot of inferior quality cannabis is moving through the black market at a high rate. And that's only because you look at the end of the off-season when there was no cannabis, high demand but low supply, so the prices just shot out of control.
So what is the price at the moment? Give us a.
So we've just, it's just harvest time's just happened. So cannabis right now is $250 an ounce. So you can buy any kind of quality cannabis for that. You can be fussy and go for the best quality. Later on, when we get into Christmas and that, the prices can get up to about $450 to $600 an ounce, and that's just near the cities where we're from.
Okay, so the $250 an ounce, right, about now, is that retail or wholesale?
That's wholesale. So, but see, this is what's happening right now, because you've got a big influx of cannabis. There's only a few, say, tinny shops that are really thriving, because at the moment, all those people who can grow cannabis have grown, enough for their personal stash. But in about 2 months' time, their personal stash is going to dwindle off, so then they start going back to those tinny shops or to people who have wholesale cannabis in ounces or whatever, to carry on from there.
Do you feel any moral turmoil or concern about the business you currently run?
Look at what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to grow a good, safe product for people who need it.
How do you know it's
who are not-
safe? How do you know what you're growing is safe? Because I don't imagine you test
Because
it,
I
do
use
you?
safe practices. I've always grown organically. I don't use chemicals. I don't use pesticides. Thoroughly clean. It's a practice. You know, when you're a true cannabis grower, you pick up all the good growing practices, and so if I was to go and get a ticket at the local polytechnic or what, I'll be at like level 4 plus because of the good growing practices. So that's what I'm growing a product that I would have myself. If it wasn't what I would have, I wouldn't grow it or even sell it.
So, I probably don't need to ask you this, but just for the record, in the referendum, which way are you going to vote?
Yes, I'll be voting yes.
And that, of course, was an illegal cannabis grower speaking on his views about the referendum, which way he'll vote, and, well, how he thinks the business model should look.